This is the Bringing Business to Retail podcast, and today I'm going to share with you my top 5 podcasts that I listen to that I think would be great for you to listen to as well.
Welcome to the Bringing Business to Retail podcast on SelenaKnight.com. Stay ahead of the competition by opening your doors to business experts so you can learn, grow, and be inspired. Passionate about bringing business strategies to independent retailers, please welcome your host, Selena Knight.
Hey there, and Happy New Year! I hope that you have had a fantastic New Year's Eve, no matter when you're listening to this, and you are ready to kick off 2020 with a whole new fresh mindset. Because remember, you can't change your past, but you most certainly can change your future. And of course, we can learn from our past. Now, if you have just found me today, welcome to the Bringing Business to Retail podcast. Happy 2020. My name is Selena Knight. I'm a retail strategist, and here on this podcast, you will hear fantastic strategies that you can implement in your business right now, whether you're a bricks and mortar store, whether you're a pop-up shop, a market stall holder, or an e-commerce store owner. My goal with the podcast is to give you really simple strategies that you can implement no matter what stage of business you're at. So here in Australia, it's our summer break, which means most businesses close down for a good sort of 10 days over that Christmas period, 10 days to 2 weeks. And that means I like to take some time off. My team and I all go and have a little bit of R&R. But there's quite a lot of stuff happening here in Australia. First of all, the bushfires. Now, if you haven't seen them on TV, they have been absolutely catastrophic. In fact, our holiday house that we rent out as an Airbnb, although the house itself is safe, a lot of the roads that go into the town have all been cut off. In fact, we have friends who were in the next beach over and they got evacuated from their campsite just yesterday. So even though I'm very grateful that our house is very safe, it is extremely traumatic what is happening out there in Australia. It honestly feels like half of the country is on fire. So if you're an Australian and you're listening, I'm sure that you'll be with me saying thank you to all the people who are on the ground helping fight these fires. My brother-in-law is a firefighter and he shared lots of stories at Christmas time. So my heart goes out to all of those people who are affected. And I truly, truly hope that we can get this situation under control. Now, I did sit down to record this podcast because I took a couple of weeks off. I batched a bunch of podcasts before Christmas, and I knew that over the Christmas break, I would get a little bit bored. I'm not very good at doing nothing. And so I think I did okay for about the first week. Yesterday, I went and created a word search puzzle just for something to do. I've been toying around at the back end of the website looking at creating a new look and feel for our Retail Academy, which is our online training portal, which is where all our courses and our action plans are housed. Just kind of tinkering around. There's no deadline and it doesn't have to be done, but tinkering around. And yesterday it was super duper hot here. So I thought I'll go and sit in my nice cool office and record the podcast for this week. Turns out, slight problem, because the latest Mac update doesn't play with my podcast recording software. Unfortunately, that took me 2 hours to figure out. And finally, I did some Googling and worked out that the new Catalina update doesn't play with my podcast recording software. So it's been a complete nightmare. I've had to dig out my old laptop to be able to record this episode. And here it is. So this one is a bit of a fun one. In this podcast episode, I'm going to be sharing with you my top, 4 podcasts that are business related, and then 2 e-commerce specific podcasts that I think you should be listening to. And so I've actually culled out the ones that are only relevant to me. Like I listen to a lot of marketing ones that maybe if marketing is not your thing, you don't need to be listening to, but these are the ones that I think could benefit just about anybody, no matter which stage of business that you're at. So here we go. The first one is called Mind Your Business with James Wedmore. And this is probably my favorite because it blends a bit of the woo-woo with a lot of business. And James focuses a lot on not having to work all the time, which is something that I'm embracing because I'm a reforming workaholic. You know, I've already told you that I'm tinkering around on my days off. but I'm not working. I don't have any clients. We don't have any big strategy sessions that we have going, nothing like that. So for me, embracing these concepts is all about learning myself and continuing to make sure that I work less, or more strategically, maybe is the right word, and get a better outcome. And quite honestly, I have 100% come to the conclusion that working more does not make you more money, does not make you happier, and certainly doesn't grow your business. All it does is stress you the heck out. It makes you tired, makes you cranky, often makes you resent your business, even for someone like me who loves working. When you can take a step back and actually say, I can put focus, strategy, and action together, and I end up with a much better end result, that for me is where it is at. So I love James Wedmore because he's very off the cuff, he's very honest, he tells lots of stories, and I know that that's something that I'm working on, because for many, many years it felt like to be professional, you had to keep that boundary between personal and professional. But social media and even podcasts have changed the way that we interact with people these days. And I realized that you need to build that connection. Unfortunately for me, I'm very type A. I'm not a hugely creative person. I think in dot points. It's a bit of a joke. I think in dot points. So I really do struggle to create those stories when 3 dot points would quite easily be able to tell the same story. So that is something that I'm going to be working on for 2020. So a lot of these podcasts I do listen to for the content, but I also listen to because they appeal to me, and I'm kind of reverse engineering in the background what it is about these podcasts that I like and clearly other people like as well, because most of these podcasts are quite highly downloaded, highly popular podcasts. So the first one is Mind Your Business with James Wedmore. If you like a little bit of woo with a lot of business, this one is for you. Now, my second one is called The Art of Business with Rick Mulready. And it was, up until recently, it was called The Art of Paid Traffic, which is why I was listening to it. Because originally Rick focused a lot on Facebook ads and then Instagram ads. And he gives loads and loads of tips. He still does focus a lot on ads, but he is now branching out into more business related topics like team and strategy and processes and all that kind of stuff. So because we have a marketing agency attached to our business and we run ads for people, I always like to keep up to date as much as possible with what is happening out there, because it can be really difficult to read all the emails, to see all the webinars, to do all the things. So for me, listening to podcasts, especially ones like Rick's, is great ways to hear what's changing inside the Facebook ads platform, what's working, what's not working. Because he's American and they have a really big account, they often get access to things first. So I can tuck those little bits of information away, and quite often I share those with my retail collective and with my coaching clients. So the good thing about hanging out with someone like me is I'm filtering all this information, I'm taking it all in like a sponge, and then just disseminating the bits and pieces that I think are going to be relevant for you, so you don't have to filter through anywhere near as much information. So if you want to know more about business in general, and you also like to know a little bit about Facebook and Instagram ads, check out The Art of Business with Rick Mulready, formerly The Art of Paid Traffic. Okay, the next one on my list is actually someone I heard on, I think it was James Wedmore's podcast. Her name is Catherine Zankina, and she has a podcast called Manifestation Babe. Okay, so this one has quite a bit of woo. However, if you're open to it, I really do suggest that you check this one out, because here's what I like about Catherine. First of all, she is open and honest. Like, she tells it like it is. She's my kind of lady. And she doesn't mind a curse word or two. So if you're listening to this one, you might want to pop your earplugs in. But she shares her stories, and to be honest, she's had a little bit, like all of us, she's had ups and downs, and she shares those with people. So I get a lot of aha moments from this one. Sometimes I'm sure it's not supposed to be part of the takeaway, but she will just say something and I'll think, wow, that that is relevant to me and completely can change my mindset. And I know one of the things that she mentioned at one point was, and I'm completely paraphrasing here, so please go and listen to her episodes, but she was talking about how for a very long time she felt guilty about using her credit card line of credit to build her business. And someone actually turned around to her and said, but you should be really grateful that you have this ability to access this money. And as long as you can pay it back, then be thankful to the universe that you have access to this money that helps you grow. It's kind of like you're borrowing from your future self. And for me, that is something for a very long time in my business I felt stressed about, was using my credit card. However, that concept actually just completely changed my whole mindset. And so now I don't feel guilty when I use my credit card, and I feel really grateful when I pay my credit card off. So there you go. So Catherine Zankina from Manifestation Babe. Now, of course, she talks all about manifesting, but what I like about it is, I love that kind of stuff, but I also just love the stories. It's all coming back to the stories for these podcasts. And I know that for me, as I said, something I have to work on. I would love it if you're listening to pop me an email, or I pop these up on social media, comment on social media and just say, do the stories work for you? Is that something that you love about podcasts? Or do you just love strategy? Do you just love give me the thing I need to know so I can walk out the door and put it in place? Let me know. Okay, so Manifestation Babe by Catherine Zankina. The next one, look, I'd be surprised if you haven't heard about this lady, Amy Porterfield, Online Marketing Made Easy. Now, I'm actually quite lucky because one of my best friends works with Amy and has been friends with Amy for many, many years. So I think even though Amy has changed a lot of her focus, which I'm going to talk about in a moment, I still feel that connection there because I get to hear what happens behind the scenes. Now, this lady has 8 or 9. No, how many is 8 million in the tens of millions? Anyway, she has lots of millions of dollars of turnover. And she has done it literally by working her way up and connecting with her audience, putting out great content. And I love to know the processes that work in the back of Amy's business. And whilst we're not doing 8 figures at the moment, I like to see what she's doing so that we can take the best bits out and we can replicate them in our business. So you always learn from someone who is further ahead than you. And while you might not have the money to do all of those things, you can take out the best bits and you can put those into your business. You can insert those, even if it's just the concept. Maybe you don't have the money to put the structure in place, but the concept is potentially something that you can put into your business to grow. So Amy does a fantastic job of connecting with her audience. And I know it's something that she's worked really, really hard on. So she's not typically someone who would sit behind a mic and tell all the stories, but having my insider information, I know that it's something that she's worked really hard on for a long time. And she's nailed it. She's also dialed in her topics. So originally, when she started the podcast, it was all about online marketing. But what I have noticed as she gets more strategic and she works out who her ultimate customer is, she's focusing on people who are more at that newer stage of business, who've maybe been in business either just starting out, maybe 1 to 2 years. She has content and she has courses for people who are further along as well. But I think she's really honed in on the fact that her people are still kind of starting out. They're still trying to find their way. And she does a fantastic job of explaining strategies in really easy language. So if you are in that earlier part of business and you feel like you just need help with all of the things, in addition to listening to the Bringing Business to Retail podcast, where we do e-commerce and retail specific strategies, maybe that is a podcast that you might like to go and hang out with as well. So that's Amy Porterfield from the Online Marketing Made Easy podcast. So just a quick recap on those 4 business-specific podcasts. The first one is Mind Your Business with James Wedmore, The Art of Business, formerly The Art of Paid Traffic with Rick Mulready, Manifestation Babe from Catherine Zankina, and Online Marketing Made Easy with Amy Porterfield. So let's get into the e-commerce specific ones. The first one is, if you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you'll probably know who I'm going to say. The first podcast that I recommend you listen to is the unofficial Shopify podcast. Of course, kind of helps if you've got Shopify as your e-commerce platform. But Kurt Elster, who's the host, he was on this podcast, and OMG, one of the most downloaded episodes, because Kurt literally just, I was going to say spewed information, but that doesn't sound very good. He just gave, and people were having mind-blown moments over and over again. We got so much interaction with Kurt's episode. And in fact, I will link to Kurt's episode inside the show notes as well if you haven't listened to that. So the unofficial Shopify podcast, he has everything from the kind of just starting out strategies right through to, 10xing your revenue strategies. So this is what I like about his podcast. He tells it like it is. He's really open, honest. He's very fun as well. And I just like that, especially if you're on the Shopify platform, because, it's the unofficial Shopify podcast, there are so many hacks in there that you can use to grow your business. If you aren't listening to that one and you're on Shopify, make sure you head over and listen to it. And the second one that I recommend is a really fun podcast. It's got two hosts and it's called Ecommerce Influence with Austin Brawner and Andrew Foxall. And I think I just like this podcast, not just because they have fantastic strategies, but because they have such a great dynamic. It can be really difficult when you have more than one host, but these guys really play off each other really well. And while they do have some of those more startup related topics, I do think they're aimed at people, generally speaking, who have been in business a little while. So they do lots of podcasts on marketing. They do lots on Facebook advertising. They talk about conversion rate optimization. See, when we start getting into those kinds of words, I know that if you're just starting out, that can freak you out. So content marketing, SEO, email marketing, all the things. But I would say typically to someone who has been in business and understands what they want from their business, where they're going, where they're headed, what they need to focus on. So if you go to their website, you can actually search by lots of different topics, which can be really handy when, like me, they have loads of episodes. So you just want to be able to sometimes start with the ones that you feel that you need to focus on. Speaking of which, that's actually something that we are working on our website, and hopefully it'll be ready by the end of January. Siloing different episodes based on what's inside. So if you haven't already taken my free quiz from Super to Superstar, find out what is holding you back from awesome, head over to selinaknight.com/quiz. It's super fun. It will take you less time than it takes to boil the kettle to make a cup of tea. But if you've hung around with me for a while, you know that I am very much about focusing not necessarily on your strengths, because you're already good on that, good at that, not good on that. Maybe you're good on it, but good at it. But really finding out what your weakness is. What is holding you back? What is stopping you from hitting that next level? So my super fun quiz will actually work that out for you. And people are saying it is ridiculous how accurate it is. So that whole quiz is based on my 5 pillars of retail success. So there are 5 different areas that I've identified, and this is all research-based. We looked at hundreds of different retail and e-commerce store owners to come up with these 5 pillars and to build the quiz as well. It took us a good, probably nearly 6 months to build out that quiz, and that was pretty much full time. I think I talked about that on another episode. But we built this quiz and we are focusing on the 5 pillars. So everything in our business will now relate back to those 5 pillars of retail success. So once you've taken the quiz, you can actually search for the things that will help you shore up those weaknesses, that will help you focus on those weaknesses and turn them into something that's not holding you back. And I do recommend, as your business grows, that you go back and take the quiz again. We're talking like 2 minutes, because at any one time, you will always have something that's holding you back. Doesn't matter if you're just starting out. Doesn't matter if you're a 10-figure business. I've worked with businesses that do tens of millions of dollars, and there is always something that holds them back. So the great thing about the quiz, which you can find over at selinaknight.com/quiz, is that once you know what it is, once you know that section of your business that's holding you back, you can actually focus. You can put your time and your energy and your resources in. And when you do that, you see what I like to call exponential growth. You do the hockey stick. So you can go from where you are now to ridiculously further up it's usually revenue that you guys are looking for, but ridiculously, you can increase that ridiculously when you focus on what's holding you back, when you focus on your weakness. Weakness is probably not the best word, but when you focus on that thing that is holding your business back, that can be scary. And I know that a lot of people just don't do it. Like they just literally overlook that thing. They just push it to the side because it's in the too hard basket. Or they argue with themselves, and I see this quite a lot. They argue with themselves that thing is not actually the problem, it's something else. But quite often when I do a little bit of digging, what actually you think is the problem is not actually the issue. So I would suggest take the quiz. It'll take you 2 minutes of your life. It's super fun. There's even a question about cheese. I think the cheese question took us 3 or 4 weeks to work out. So selinaknight.com, can't even talk now, selinaknight.com/quiz. Take the quiz, find out what's holding you back. And when you do that, as a thank you, I actually send you my retail success blueprint. So I'll show you how you can fix that area, how you can focus on that area to use it to your advantage. So that wraps up this quick episode with my six favorite podcasts that I listen to every single week, and I think that you should be listening to as well. Do you listen to any of those podcasts? Make sure you hit me up on social media. Let me know your favorite podcasts, and hey, I could even come back and make another episode of your favorite podcasts as well. Happy 2020, guys. Super excited for this to be a fantastic year. I hope you'll continue listening here on the Bringing Business to Retail podcast and keep your eyes and ears peeled for quite a few changes that we are phasing into our business. I'll see you on the next episode where we're going to talk all about when and how much you should be paying yourself. I'll see you then. Bye. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of the Bringing Business to Retail podcast. You can find all of the show notes over at selinaknight.com. If you found something that you heard today particularly useful, I'd love it if you could leave me a review on iTunes or Stitcher. And of course, feel free to share this episode with someone that you think could benefit by listening to it. Want more retail biz strategies? You can watch the Bringing Business to Retail TV show, where each week I'll answer a question or provide you with a simple, actionable retail biz strategy that you can implement in your business right away. If you have a question or a guest, I'd love to hear from you. Drop my team an email at podcast@selinaknight.com, and I'll see you on the next episode. Have a great week.